Let's take a look at what's new in Archiware P5 5.2, starting with full 64-bit support. So just to illustrate how simple it is to install P5.2 into a Linux OS, indeed this is CentOS 7, so this is the same as Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. Let's just go through the installation procedure. So if we position ourselves in user local and make a directory called AW for Archiware, go into that directory and download the 5.2 installer, which will just take a few seconds. So now we have our Archiware installation TGZ file, and to install, all we need to do is extract and unzip that file, which is now done. So we now have various files in the directory for the Archiware installation. I'll now just run the installation script and choose port 8000 as the port for Archiware to listen on, followed by starting the product up. The installation script will also, as you can see here, set up the rc.d run control script so that the product starts when the machine boots. And in a couple of seconds we'll see that Archiware is running, and while that's just completing, it's completed in fact, I'm just going to run Firefox, web browser, go to localhost 8000, and there we see Archiware 5.2 login page. So this is a completely vanilla stock CentOS 7 installation. Archiware installs on here because it's now 64-bit without needing to install any additional libraries. The 64-bit nature of the 5.2 release will also help because it has access to more memory, so enterprise installations where multiple tape drives are being streamed to will benefit. Version 5.2 also includes support for the FreeBSD OS on both Intel and AMD. Okay, to illustrate the usefulness of having FreeBSD support, let's look at a distribution of FreeBSD called FreeNAS. Now, FreeNAS is available via the freenas.org URL. Very nice website, and if you have a look at the features, you'll see that we have ZFS support built into FreeNAS. So FreeNAS is based on FreeBSD distribution, and FreeBSD has a very long history of supporting ZFS properly. So if you're looking to make a storage appliance, or a backup server indeed, then this is a pretty good choice. Now I've got a VM here which I'm going to start up, which is running FreeNAS. So let's go with the normal boot up. This should just take a couple of seconds, and then we'll have FreeNAS running in a VM, and from there we'll be able to connect to FreeNAS's web interface. Everything is configured in a browser. So now we can see that FreeNAS is up and running, and it's publishing itself on 192.168.235.137. So let's just put that into our browser, 192.168.235.137. And now we get to log into the FreeNAS to configure it. So let's log in with the password I set earlier. And within FreeNAS you can see that there's a menu-driven interface that allows you to configure everything from creating ZFS file systems to sharing them out via Apple AFP, Unix NFS, CIFS for Windows. There's a number of different services that are pre-installed, so this is currently working as an AFP file server, and in addition I have SSH access enabled. So let's SSH in to our FreeNAS box using the terminal on the Mac, and from here I can install Archiware P5 5.2, which is FreeBSD compatible, by simply making the relevant installation directory. So the default is to install in user local AW, and then we'll use wget to download the installer. Okay, so we've got our TGZ file downloaded, 133 meg. If we expand and unzip that file, we'll get all of the Archiware program files in the directory, and from here we can just run the install script to set up the start scripts and choose the default port that we listen on, followed by starting the product up. All of this on the FreeNAS FreeBSD operating system, and once Archiware started up, then we'll have an additional web interface for Archiware that we can access on the box. So it's running, and back to the browser, open another tab, go to the IP address, but this time port 8000, and now we see the Archiware login on FreeBSD. So all we need to do is log in, put a license key in, and now we can start to configure. Now the FreeBSD and indeed FreeNAS are particularly interesting when using backup to go, because the ZFS file system is perfect for backing up workstations because it supports the ability to take snapshots directly within the file system. Also remember that FreeBSD operating system is supported on both Intel and AMD platforms, so there's a variety of embedded FreeBSD OS running in NAS, network attached storage devices, both on Intel and AMD, and Archiware can now be used on both of those architectures. Next up, we're going to look at some archive index management features. We're currently positioned within the archive index within this installation of P5.2, and you can see I've been archiving a number of different folders from my desktop here. So let's have a look in sample pictures. You can see there's a bunch of JPEGs in there that I've been archiving. So if we drop back here, in 5.2 you can rename folders to start off with. So if we decided that we'd archive this folder with the wrong name, we want to change it, we can go in here, rename that one. It warns me when I'm doing this to make sure that there are no jobs running, archive jobs that might be also attempting to modify the index and might clash, so you need to check via the job monitor that nothing's running. And now we could change the name of this folder if we wanted to samplepics2. There we go, files are still inside, everything's still good. So if you were to be trying to make your archive index match the structure of a file system, where the users might be familiar with the file system but the archive index isn't quite matching it, you can make changes like that. If I wanted to, I can also move a folder. So via the element menu again, we can move this samplepics2 folder. We get to browse the existing structure of the archive index. Maybe I want to move it inside this new folder. Let's do that and confirm, and now you can see samplepics is now within this folder. There were also some JPEGs in here, and now we've got the samplepics folder. So the archive index structure becomes pliable, and you can start to shape it and maybe correct mistakes that have been made in there. But also the snapshots will retain through time any changes that you've made. So whenever you make a modification to the index structure, a new snapshot is created. So you can see if we go back to the 1541 snapshot, then we can see this is before this folder got moved. But any archiving that we do subsequently will retain the current structure of the index, so the structure will not be reverted by simply adding more data. It's just that you can flick back to a previous point in time and see how the structure looked at an earlier time. How to save searches in the archive index. Another new feature is within search. So if we look at doing a search within this folder, maybe we want to find files that start with 21, and that finds us a bunch of JPEGs here. Maybe we want to narrow that down, make it 210. Okay, and maybe I wanted to add another search term in here where the name needed to contain JPG, which will match all of those, of course. So now we have our search results. Maybe I want to save this. This is the new feature. So if I click on the save button here, then I can enter a name. So JPEG 21. Okay. So now we have a saved search, and our saved searches appear in the drop down up here and are shared between users. So I can now go back to some other position within the index, hit search, and recall my saved search and immediately see the results. So this is a much requested feature. Many workflows are going to benefit from being able to pre-save searches within the archive index to make it easier to locate important files. Our fifth new feature is the archive job protocol. The new archive job protocol feature means that when you archive files, you receive an email that contains an attachment detailing what you did. Let's just take a quick look at that. So here's a folder on the desktop called Test Archive that I want to archive. So via manual archiving, I'm going to browse and locate that folder and ask Archiware to archive it. Okay, let's monitor that job so that we can see when it's finished. Okay, so the job completed just fine. And because I have email reporting switched on for the user that I'm logged into P5 as, I'm going to go check my mail. So here's the message of interest, and you can see this is a standard job log report email, but it contains an attachment. Let's look at that attachment. And you can see that the attachment contains all the details about the files that were archived. And this could easily be imported into another system so that you can integrate easily via these emails. In addition, the same information can be obtained via CLI commands. And finally, mail server authentication. P5.2 now includes mail server authentication. So when you're looking at the localhost client settings and you're interested in configuring email delivery, then you can see here we now support SMTP authentication either on plaintext port 25 or encrypted with SSL or TLS on 465. So if you're choosing one of these two options over here, then you get to type in a username and password, and then we'll authenticate against your mail server and deliver the email reports about jobs completing, etc. And that concludes this video. Thanks for watching.